Hello and welcome to Tech Tinkering with Matt. This is a test and also a welcome to my new channel, and I'll tell you all about it after a little sip. Cheers. So, what is this channel and why am I doing it? Obviously, I will say this is probably going to be the only content that is properly recorded, and the only reason is apparently it takes YouTube 24 hours to enable the streaming API after you've clicked enable. So I couldn't wait, I was ready, and the idea behind this channel is kind of the polar opposite of all the work I do for my professional life. I do a lot of video webinars, I do a lot of kind of live like hackathon workshops, I record content like this with screen shares and demos as a developer advocate. I've worked in backend Linux SRE environments for cloud providers. I've worked in cybersecurity, both on the kind of pen test side and on the development side, and also as more recently a developer advocate doing all this kind of content. The thing with that kind of content is if I'm creating a long-lived video that's going on YouTube or going to 200, 300, 400 people on a live webinar, I'm gonna have pre-prepped a lot of it, right? I'm going to have a script, I'm going to have timings. Yes, things are going to go wrong because it's still working with live tech, but I'm going to have, a backup plan and a second backup plan, and I'm going to know it fits within the time I need it to fit for the webinar or for the conference event or the talk. This is the opposite of that in the idea that it will just be live tinkering with stuff that I'm working on, not necessarily for my job, just personal, open source software development, hardware hacking, just all kinds of stuff. And the reason I've decided to do this was actually a bit of advice from an ex-colleague and mentor. So, you are, cheers. And I was saying, there's so many things I work on or tinker with, if you will. And yet, as anyone that's done video editing knows, you maybe, if you're really good at it, and I am not, you maybe get, 1 minute of usable video out of 10 minutes of editing, and then you've already pre-recorded before that, and finding all the clips and importing them. And there's no way I could do that to create, on my own professional content for things I'm just working on as side projects, because it'd take up the time that I'm working on them as side projects. So the idea that Scott gave me was, hey, why don't you just live stream it? Because then it's really raw. It's really, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. So that's the plan with Tech Tinkering with Matt. Things might break, things might never get completed, but I work on a load of weird stuff, if I'm honest. I'll give you an idea of that in a moment, and it'd be really cool to share some of it with you. So without further ado, let me introduce the setup I've built for this, and yeah, let's have a look around. I've not got my Stream Deck set up yet, so I'm having to look over here with a mouse, but I have a separate camera over here, hi, and this will treat as well for when we are doing more demo-y things, more unboxy things, more you needing to see where I'm putting probes for, hardware debugging things. And then I also have a little Wondercam, which is Video Ninja. Talking of Video Ninja, hi. One of the projects I'm working on is the idea of basically a, quote-unquote idiot-proof box where anyone can plug in HDMI network and a microphone, and it will provide via a QR code a live stream of whatever is plugged in to anyone that scans it. And the idea behind that is when we did a lot of conference talks, especially at booth conference talks or little demos, you get a lot of people, including myself, I'm not on the booth floor, spending hours looking at vendors or open source projects or anything. I'm trying to get to the talks I've paid to be in the event for. But some of them are interesting. But if you need to get somewhere, you need to get somewhere. And so the idea with this is you can take a booth with you. And so if you have this plugged in, people can walk past, scan the QR code, and in their earphones when they're on their way with their phone to wherever they're going, which, you know, given some of these tech conferences, that could be a 20-minute walk away, they can still be listening to your talk as if they're stood at your booth, and, you know, potentially have the slides on the screen, or even just, you know, the fact that they've caught that in the act, they can maybe say, hey, just remind me to download this later, and you have that ability to, you know, keep that member of audience engaged, which I think is really cool. So another thing that annoys me a little bit with the life of traveling and conferences and doing tech stuff, especially video and content related tech stuff at those conferences, is I am constantly taking this and all my AV kit apart, to take it with me somewhere, to put it back together. And again, coming back to why this channel is going to be a live stream and why it is going to be, you know, like this and talking and typing and geeking out, is because every time I'm like, oh, hey, I could just, you know, live stream what I'm doing, it's like all my AV stuff's probably still packed in a Peli case from the previous event, and I'm like, oh, well, in the half an hour I have to do the thing I was going to do, I'd have to put the cameras and everything on. So to fix that, hang on a second, back to here. This thing here, which I'm not going to move, I'm going to switch over to my third camera, is what I've come up with as a proof of concept. So here we go. Is Video Ninja going to come back now I've unlocked the screen because it went off? Is it? No, it's probably not. Okay. Atom full screen it is. There we go. So I'm just going to turn this here. What we basically have here is I've put everything I usually take with me onto a board. So I've got a NUC running OBS. I've got my wireless mic receiver, which you can see there going into my Atom Mini, which is also taking the input from the GoPro that you are seeing me on at the moment. And then I've got a USB-C powered little screen that I got from Amazon that not only is allowing me to see all my OBS good stuff, but if I wanted to, I could switch over and see, he says, trying to do it one-handed, the raw OBS feed from my Atom Mini. Ooh. Turn that off. There we go. So the idea with this and all the power adapters and stuff just on the back is it's always going to be usable. Like, the idea is that this is just set up, and I kind of proved the case that this does work. I'm going to make it neater, lighter, put it on some plastic kind of cut to size board instead of this piece of wood I had lying around. But the idea being, I can throw this in a Peli case to take with me and it will come out ready. Or, you know, I can carry this around and use it where I need to. I've got a shed full of brewing gear that we might cover because quite a lot of that I want to automate. So, yeah, that's, I guess that's a little show and tell project for this opening stream. And with that, if it doesn't drop, I'm going to switch back. So, that is the plan. There are so many other things I want to cover on this channel. I've got a bit of a love of Old Sun hardware because I worked for some microsystems before they got bought by Oracle, and I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing in Linux nowadays is stuff that already existed in Open Solaris 10 plus years ago, if it had carried on. Not that I'm not a massive Linux geek, but there we go. I've got these little embedded devices with LAN ports, WAN ports designed as mini routers, but I kind of want to write some open source software that basically finds a way for these just to get online no matter how, so that you can arrive at a hotel, dump this in your hotel room, and just know that all your stuff like is going to be connected throughout your stay. And then, yeah, probably some other bits and bobs knocking around. I've got I've got some Meraki switches that we're going to try and de-Merakify. This is a stretch goal for sure. There's one guy working on it that I reached out to online, and it's got an undocumented chipset in it, and the SDK isn't released. So that could be, you know, letting the magic smoke out at some point, but we shall see. And yeah, just loads of stuff that for my own sake and